today's talk was depressing because we were talking about coffee and depression. But I feel like I really want to go over something that people tell us a lot, even about other natural products than coffee, which is long-lasting and anti-aging properties of many natural products. And definitely coffee is between them. And luckily there are getting new studies showing which bioactive components are involved in those properties. So it's not like something that is said with no scientific base. But anyway, so I would like to entitle today our talk like Coffee, Longer Life and Better Life. Okay, so speaking about long life, so how scientifically people measure long life and those quality of life, right? So there is many studies that you can see about different topics that they talk about morbidity and mortality. And they might sound similar, but I want to make a parenthesis here and make sure that we're all on the same page. So morbidity is when you are talking about diseases that can lead to death. And when you're talking about mortality, you're talking about the quality of the healthcare. So how long you're going to live, better life. So that's why I'm introducing those two terms, because our talk today is about coffee, long-lasting and better life. Okay, so if we're talking about better life and long-lasting, we have to, on the top of my mind, the first thing I think is that, well, let's think about what are the major problems nowadays to public health, actually, that concerns the population in terms of, am I going to live longer? And if I'm living longer, am I going to get a quality longer life, or just going to extend the amount of time I live, but not with quality, which is a big difference, right? So when you think about that, you think about what are the major concerns in public health. And today we can tell there are two main causes of morbidity that can lead to death, right? So can be a cause of mortality. And those two major causes we can divide into, number one, unfortunately, definitely, is heart diseases. And of course, and those will be mainly stroke, myocardial infarction, some acute arrhythmias, and so forth. And the number two will be the one we spoke last week. Amazingly, yes, depression is is the second most important. Hey, Ricardo, good that you're watching. Nice to see you. All right, so the second cause will be depression. So, okay, so we know those are the major concerns in terms of, am I going to live longer? Okay, so what leads to those disorders, right? So if you look at the number one cause, which are heart diseases, then you can definitely go in a sort of a sequence of events that kind of leads people into diseases that will eventually get into heart diseases, and then of course if it's not taken care of, then it can lead to death or to a bad quality of life. Okay, so what are the sequence of events? Well, those sequence of events will start especially with stress, right? Okay. Yeah, unfortunately stress is in our lives nowadays, right? I mean, everything you can think of can bring stress. You are in the traffic, you got stuck on some place, you want to get somewhere, you have an appointment, you have some important speech to give, and you are getting prepared for that, or you have an exam, always there is stress involved, right? Okay, but it's not that like that everyday stress can lead you to, diseases. But definitely, if the stress is not taken care of, if you don't balance your lifestyle, give you some time off and things like that, stress, yes, can lead you to what? Many times, disorder of, for instance, eating disorders is very common. Like the person start eating too much, or have some specific food that they like and they take advantage of that and use that a lot. If you have an eating disorder, hey Sandra, good to see you there. So if you have an eating disorder, and that is very common, unfortunately, especially here in the United States, we're seeing a lot of increase in obesity. And obesity, unfortunately, is the point of start of many diseases that involve cardiovascular problems. Starting with atherosclerosis, and atherosclerosis are plaques that are set in your vessels, and depending on how important this vessel is, where it's leading the blood to, that can even lead to a myocardial infarction and all those deadly diseases that are #1 causes of morbidity. And we're going to talk, another talk, not today. I want to highlight the important things that coffee brings you better life and long-lasting life. And so we will have a later talk about coffee and obesity. Very interesting. We're going to be talking that in a couple of weeks. But today, I just want to highlight this importance of #1 causes of diseases. And coffee does have components, bioactive compounds, and I'm going to talk about that later. I mean, they work all around the carbohydrate metabolism, lipid metabolism, so that really you can see the effect of preventative effect in terms of not allowing to develop those diseases. And then #2, we spoke last week, and I told you about the quinides, which comes from the chlorogenic acids, that we know have those effects on the opiate receptors that kind of block that vicious cycle of pleasure and look for pleasure with drugs, with smoking, some too much, or sniffing cocaine, this kind of stuff, and even IV drugs. So this all can lead to what also? To suicide, right? And that is actually one of the main causes of mortality due to depression. So I want to focus, like I said, what are the good stuff that we know in coffee that make us feel good, feel better? And what are the mechanisms that we know now that can make us live longer with just having our 3-4 cups a day of coffee? Okay, so make sure that I'm covering everything I want to say today. Okay, so first of all, we have, as we all know, everybody talks about, this has been talking since long time ago, about the properties of caffeine. Yes, caffeine is a central nervous system stimulant, and as that's what brings us when we drink a good cup of coffee in the morning, hot cup of coffee, we get that, energy that we need to, really keep moving, go to work, do whatever we need to do. And that improves our alertness, that gives us a bigger endurance of exercise. And one more thing that I haven't said before is that coffee also have, through caffeine, a thermogenic effect. What that means? Thermo means temperature, right? And genic means genesis. So coffee actually, through caffeine, leads for you to burn, to burn calories actually, because of this thermogenic effect of caffeine. And that's why it increases the endurance resistance during the exercise. When you're in the gym, if you drink a good cup of coffee before going to the gym, you can notice that. You're going to do better. You can extend the time you're doing the exercise due to the caffeine in the coffee. But then let's not forget that coffee is not only caffeine, like my mentor in coffee used to tell Dr. Lima. Coffee is much more than caffeine, and we know those chlorogenic acids nowadays, and I spoke about them, but in general, we should talk about phenolic compounds as a general, and the chlorogenic acids are included in this group. So what the phenolic compounds are very important, and they are always talk about in reference to other natural products, like for instance, citric fruits, like lemon, orange. We know they have a lot, vitamin C, right? And vitamin C is something that everybody takes extra when they need some antioxidants increase property, like you are, with the inflammatory process, you are with a cold and things like that. And you can remember, you also see sometimes caffeine is present in some of those cold medicines in conjunction in a formula. So this antioxidant property of coffee is very important. It was the very first thing that they noticed in coffee. And because coffee is the most drink beverage in terms of amount every day by worldwide population, coffee turned out to be the single one main source of getting your antioxidant property every day. So what the heck antioxidant property is important? People say, oh, you have to have antioxidant. Why antioxidant is important? Well, the name is saying antioxidant. So that means has a preventative effect against oxidation process. And why oxidation process is bad? Well, oxidation process is the very first step in those neurodegenerative diseases, also in cancer and inflammatory diseases. So if you have a good chunk of antioxidants in your morning, you are starting your day with a possibility. You are improving your quality of life. You are making you less likely to develop those neurodegenerative diseases. There will be also topics for later talks. We're going to talk specifically for each one of them. We have, Alzheimer's, we have Parkinson's. So we're going to be talking about coffee and those diseases. But today I just want to highlight those properties in coffee that makes coffee, live longer and a better life. And let me tell you one more thing before we close. Lately there are studies, and today a lot of studies involve genomics and genetics. We are looking a lot, I myself in my group of study, we're doing a lot of that too. And we now know there are some genes that are considered actually longevity genes. And guess what? Components in coffee, bioactive components in coffee, are shown to have a positive effect on those longevity genes. And what those longevity genes does? Well, what they do is to actually regulate those genes that are involved in inducing apoptosis, which means cell death, genes that are involved into neurodegenerative degradation, so oxidative stress. So those genes are regulated by those longevity genes, which coffee has the capability to induce them. So prevent us from developing those steps that can lead to those neurodegenerative diseases and even cancer. So my message today is a happy message. It's like, coffee is really something that the human, when he selected coffee as his main beverage to have every day, was not for nothing. Was really because the body was responding, was showing that was making good to us. So Keep having your cup of coffee, 3 cups a day, and you're gonna live long.